As we wait these last few weeks before baby number 4 arrives, I'm putting all of the preparation into place so that I can take a easy, relaxing postpartum few weeks after he or she arrives. We still have a little bit of time until baby arrives, all in God's timing, of course. So I'm just going to show you some of the initial things I've started preparing, taking y'all through the things I am preparing to put in the freezer for my family, for myself, some of the deeper cleaning I'm getting done. Hope y'all enjoy spending these few days with me in postpartum prep. First of all, I am going to show you how I'm storing our tortillas. So I've shared this tortilla recipe many times on this channel. It's our absolute favorite. We make it probably 2 to 3 times a week. So I know my family is still going to want to have taco night or some sort of a wrap. So it's a really easy meal. My husband can easily put these on the skillet and stuff them with meat or eggs, whatever they want to stuff them with. So all I'm doing is anytime I make tortillas, which is a couple of times a week, I save the last bit of dough and I roll it out and put it between pieces of parchment paper, and I'm freezing this. So I have tested this out. These come out just as good as if they were freshly made. So all they will have to do is pull them out of the freezer, let them thaw hours, and then just pop each tortilla onto a hot griddle or skillet, cook it on each side for a couple of minutes, and they'll have hot, fresh tortillas. I debated on pre-cooking these, but if you cook them ahead of time, they're hard to fold and shape as a taco. So I figured it would be best for my husband or whoever was preparing the meal to just be able to easily pop these on the skillet, the griddle, and serve them warm with whatever fillings they desire. So I'm also going to be preparing some pre-made taco meats and things like that so they can easily stuff these for tacos if they want tacos one night or one weekend. So I will leave the tortilla recipe down below. I've shared it multiple times on this channel, so you can easily follow along how I actually make the recipe, but this is how I'm storing them in the freezer for the first few weeks postpartum. Next up, we're going to be making broth. So broth is one of the most healing, nourishing foods a new mother can consume. And I did not know this my first 2 pregnancies. Well, really my first. I knew a little bit with my second. And then with my third, I really consumed lots of bone broth in those first few weeks postpartum and saw a world of a difference in my healing, my energy, postpartum bleeding, all of those things, just by making sure I was consuming adequate amounts of bone broth and also consuming warm liquids. I remember just chugging cold ice water after my first child was born because it just tasted good. But if you didn't know, keeping the body warm in the postpartum season is vital for quick, easy recovery. So you see I have a large stock pot of bone broth that I had been simmering for a while. This was an entire wild turkey carcass, so it would not fit in my Instant Pot. I typically make bone broth in the Instant Pot, but the turkey carcass was not fitting into there, so I had to pull up my large stock pot. So I'm having to dip out and strain the broth this way. So I'm making a vegetable soup here. It's just some carrots, potatoes, onions, just really hearty root vegetables in broth. And then I'm adding some liver pate. This is just making sure I'm getting organ meats in. Rate the liver pate pop. This is just liver mixed with bone broth frozen in a little silicone mold, adding it into soups. Add this into everything. Y'all have seen me do this many times before. And then I will go back and add some stewed meat later on before I actually start canning this. So jumping around the kitchen, now we're going to go back to a meal for my family. I'm making some pre-made, ready-to-go pancake mix. So this is a delicious pancake recipe. It is not long fermented unless you want it to be. So technically, I guess this could be long fermented because I could just leave this in the fridge for a few days and then freeze it for my family to have. But honestly, I just mix it up and I'm freezing it right away. So if I make some more of this, I'll probably will long ferment it, but this quick version is not long fermented sourdough. It's just using sourdough discard. So what I'm doing is making the pancake batter, pouring it into a Ziploc bag, and then the directions for my family, my husband, whoever's here helping with food, will be just to thaw the batter, cut a little slit in the bottom corner, and then squeeze the pancake batter onto a hot griddle, and they can have fresh pancakes. Some of this will be for me too. 2 or 3 weeks postpartum, I will be back up in the kitchen, most likely, but I don't want to be doing extensive cooking. So I want to have a lot of this pre-made. So it will be easier for me cooking for my family because our family is growing. I will need to get back into the groove of cooking at some point postpartum. So when I do get back into that, I want things to be easy. So now I am canning that vegetable soup. I've added the meat, I've added some more veggies, it's simmered a while, and I'm going to get it ready to pressure can. So I'm just dipping everything into jars. I've done pressure canning tutorials before. Anytime I pressure can, I just look up the recipe time that I need to can and the pounds of pressure needed for that recipe. So this is just a vegetable soup recipe. I looked up with meat and I followed the directions for that. So pressure canning can be intimidating. I know I was very intimidated by it, but it's actually very, very simple. There is pretty much a recipe you can find anywhere for any recipe on how to can it, the proper time, the proper weights, all of that. And I always have my sweet little 3-year-old helper with me when I'm in the kitchen. She is very into all of these homemaking tasks, and I absolutely love having her join me and learning these skills very early on. Okay, it's much later in the day. I've already canned the soup and I've already had another batch of bone broth canned. So I also am just canning bone broth for me to just have warmed and drink and sip on those first few days, especially when it is so vital that I'm consuming broths and warm drinks. I'll just add a little bit of salt and warm it and sip on this warm bone broth for the first few days postpartum. So I'm canning lots of bone broth for that purpose as well. So we have the soup for like a meal and then bone broth to sip on. And this is not very much right here, but I'm kind of doing this in small batches so that I don't get overwhelmed. I don't really like canning in large batches, like multiple canning sessions back to back to back all day long. I like to do one canning session in a day so that I'm not just sitting by my oven all day long waiting on the pressure canner, keeping it to temperature, because it just makes it a lot less overwhelming for me. So I'm doing a lot of this in little bitty snippets over these next few weeks coming into preparation for babies. Let's jump into a little bit of deeper cleaning. Deeper cleaning is something that I struggle to find the time with. I've shared this before, but cleaning these couch cushions should be done monthly. Probably gets done a lot less than that. And I will go ahead and share with y'all my biggest regret, my husband and I both, is buying this white couch. When we first got married, it is no longer white. The back cushions do not come off to wash. That's what I do not like about this couch. I can wash these seat cushions and they become nice and clean and fresh again, but the back I cannot. I've steamed it, carpet mopped it, we've done all the things, and we just are hanging on to this couch a little longer while I have little kids before we decide to replace it. I've looked into slip covers, but I haven't found one that I actually love. If you have a good recommendation for a slip cover company, let me know below. One that doesn't slide all around and isn't hard to keep looking nice. A lot of slip covers to me just look kind of slouchy. I know you can make your own. I just have not had the time for that. So anyways, I'm giving the couch a good deep clean, just something that needs to get done. I'll probably need to do this one more time before baby comes. Like I said, this should be done monthly, but it does not get done quite near as often as it should. Okay, moving on to some garden harvest. So this isn't actually postpartum prep, but this is me trying to stay on top of the garden harvest, because when a lot of the harvest comes in this summer, I'm probably going to be freshly postpartum. So hopefully my husband can help me a lot with that. He will. And then hopefully my mom, if she is up, she can help me a lot with the harvest. So we're going to have lots of green beans coming in, lots of tomatoes, but staying on top of carrots, which is what we are harvesting currently, is my current priority, and making sure I'm harvesting every day, putting away every day, preserving every day, making sure I'm staying on top of it. Again, if I let this stuff build up, it becomes very overwhelming. And what's important is going into these last few weeks of pregnancy is keeping my stress low. I don't like to be stressed in pregnancy, and keeping these tasks manageable and on top of them. Doing a little bit every day is just so much more relaxing. It's actually fun doing it this way. So all I'm doing is washing, preparing the carrots to can them, which you'll see me can in just a few minutes. I love the sweet little hand popping up for a fresh carrot. It's always fun when your kids love the fresh harvests that are coming in, and just a treat to have fresh carrots, because we don't have fresh carrots all the time. That's the thing about the grocery stores these days. We've become accustomed to having fruit and vegetables all the time, but they're not really fresh, and there's nothing like the taste of a fresh, crunchy carrot straight out of the garden. So unfortunately, we won't be able to preserve that flavor, but we are going to can them and preserve them to have in soups all throughout the winter. So now preparing some more bone broth. My mom just gave me her last bag of beef bones from her half beef order last year. So that's what I'm getting through here. She offered to let me have her last bag so I could prepare a lot of this for the postpartum season. We've been having to actually buy bones here lately because we are out of our bulk bones from our last half beef order. That's why I was using that wild turkey carcass that my husband harvested a few weeks ago. Then I'm working through this last bag of beef bones. So I've shared how to make bone broth many times on this channel. I prefer to make it in the Instant Pot. You just saw me using the stock pot at the beginning of this video because, like I said, sometimes the bones won't fit into the Instant Pot. So I'm going to make several batches here with this big bag of bones. These are like the large knuckle bones from a cow. So these still have meat on them. They make delicious flavored bone broth. There's so much gelatin in these. All I do is fill the pot with bones and then cover just about a ½ inch to an inch with water, and then add a splash of apple cider vinegar, and then I cook it on the broth function for 4 hours. This is my favorite way to make bone broth. It's hands off. It's delicious. Like I said, it's very gelatinous, and it's going to be great postpartum. Okay, now I'm getting ready to can carrots. So I'm going to just raw pack these. This, when you could either raw pack or hot pack. Kind of pre-cook your carrots in hot water, add some salt, and can them that way. Or you can raw pack them, which is what I'm doing here. You just won't be able to fit quite as many carrots in one jar. But honestly, it was just easier for me at this point just to pack them in there raw and then pour hot water on top and then can them that way. So again, I just Google search pressure canning time for carrots, and you will get the exact time and pressure gauge you need for pressure canning. Again, pressure canning does not have to be intimidating. I was so intimidated by this, but this is my second year to have a pressure canner as we're having garden harvest, and it has made harvesting so much easier. In the past, I would have to freeze all of this, and our freezer is already full of meats. I don't like to fill it up with veggies too. I like to can as many veggies as possible. We do still freeze some, but loved our pressure canner. I have some tutorials from last summer on pressure canning if you want a little more insight into like a beginner's guide for pressure canning. So these are our carrots. Again, not really postpartum prep, just staying on top of the early garden harvests that are about to be more abundant as we move closer and closer in these next months when baby arrives. So we'll see how on top of the harvesting I stay once baby actually arrives. Alright, the carrots are coming out again. I told y'all this was over several days. This might have even been a week or two. I don't remember when I filmed all these clips, but I like breaking this up. It makes it so much less overwhelming. So you see now here our bone broth is ready. I'm getting it strained up, and it will be the next thing going in the canner. So between heating up the jars, I'm making a raw carrot salad. I talked about raw carrot salads many times. It is so beneficial for detoxing estrogen in the body, keeping estrogen and progesterone properly balanced, those are key hormones in pregnancy to have balance. If you've tried the carrot salad and did not love it, try adding sliced shredded apples. It changes the whole flavor. It's a game changer. It's so delicious. So we also save all of our apple scraps to make apple cider vinegar. We use that for everything. It's helpful in a lot of our animal feeds. So that's what you see me doing here with the apple course. Okay, so the jars have heated. Now I am going into a second batch of canning today because I just had a lot to get done. So we did the carrots. Now we're going into that bone broth. Again, I just look up pressure canning time for bone broth in pint jars versus quart jars, and that's how I know the time and the pressure to can certain things. It's the next morning. We're going to end this video out here. I'm getting everything labeled, checking seals, taking all of this down to the basement so that it is ready for the postpartum season. It's harvested from the garden, and it's just vital for me right now to stay on top of this stuff so it doesn't pile up, cause stress, cause overwhelm in these last few weeks before our new baby arrives. So I will be back soon with more postpartum meal prepping, cleaning, deep cleaning, and a little bit of the preparation I'll be doing for baby. I'll show you all that as well.